American Top 40.
Now on American Top 40, a debut record that has finally made the charts after bombing out twice before. It first hit in England a few years ago. Then it was released in the U.S. by Mercury Records in 1969. But it was a dud. The following summer, they decided to release it again. And it bombed again. Well, last year, RCA Records bought several master tapes from Mercury, one of which included this two-time losing song. And RCA really lucked out, because over the past few months, the artist has become the most talked about, written about British performer in the world. And RCA decided a couple of months ago that that was the time to give the record one more shot. And this time, it makes it. Moving into the 40 at number 36, here's David Bowie and Space Oddity. That debuts at number 36, Space Oddity, by the Englishman David Bowie.
American Top 40.
Now we're up to a hit by the superstar who recently appeared on the cover of Time magazine. Now, Time is one of the most respected news journals published today. Their covers usually feature political figures and world leaders, the movers and the shakers. So when the editors of Time put a pop star on their cover, you know whoever they choose is having some kind of vital impact on our pop culture. Time goofed, of course, by ignoring Elvis Presley in the 50s. But in the 60s, Time magazine couldn't ignore the Beatles. Paul and John also appeared solo on Time covers. And other pop stars who appeared on the cover of Time include Elton John, Linda Ronstadt, Aretha Franklin, James Taylor, The Band, Joni Mitchell, Bruce Springsteen, Cher, and The Who. One cover was shared by four artists, Roberta Flack, Harry Nilsson, Carole King, and Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull. And the latest pop music star to appear on a Time cover did it just 7 weeks ago. He's an English rock superstar. And here's what the cover story by writer Jay Cox said. In a hurricane-force career that has swept over a decade, lost force sometimes, but never blown out to sea, he's tried on almost as many private faces and public personas as he has written songs. At age 36, David Bowie is the oldest fresh face in rock. End of quote. At number 12 this week, here he is right off the cover of Time magazine. David Bowie and China Girl. David Bowie reached number 10 in our countdown last week. That was his peak with the song China Girl. This week, he falls to number 12.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Now we're up to the latest hit by a superstar singer and actor who says he had an emotional breakdown in the late 70s and that he brought himself back to reality by doing the sort of ordinary things most of us do every day. Not long ago, David Bowie told the New York Times that in the late 70s, when he was going through his thin white duke period, he underwent what he describes as, quote, a dreadful emotional breakdown. Bowie says he was having trouble coping with his huge fame and had gotten deeply involved with drugs. In his own words, I was zonked out of my mind most of the time. I was destroying my body. Well, David told the Times that one day a friend literally stood him in front of a mirror and told David to take a really good look at himself. That confrontation scared David Bowie so much that he decided it was time for a radical and complete change. What he did was to move to Berlin, where he felt few people would recognize him. He rented a small, unassuming apartment over an auto parts store, and he started doing things he'd never done before. Ordinary things like shopping for groceries and doing his laundry. And David says that doing normal things helped bring him back to normalcy. Several months of that simple living was all David needed, and he returned to being a superstar. And one of the first things that he did was to take on the challenge of playing the role of the Elephant Man on Broadway. Since then, he's gone on to some of the biggest successes of his life, both as an actor and as a singer. The latest hit by David Bowie is at number 19 in this week's countdown. Here's Modern Love.
I know when to go out.
David Bowie with a song produced by David and Nile Rodgers, one they took to number 2 in England, got as high as number 14 last week on American Top 40. It rests at number 19 this week, and it's titled Modern Love, as the countdown rolls on.
Casey's Coast to Coast. Casey's Coast to Coast.
Over the years, a lot of famous people have narrated on records the story of Peter and the Wolf, mostly well-known actors. But only one rock star has ever done that, and he sounded like this.
But Peter paid no attention to his grandfather's words. Boys like Peter aren't afraid of wolves.
Details coming up.
The hits from coast to coast.
You know, one of the most famous children's stories ever set to music is the tale of Peter and the Wolf, the classic Russian tale of a young boy who goes out into the snow-covered forest to hunt a wolf. It was set to music by Russian composer Sergei Prokofiev in 1936. And ever since then, recordings of this orchestral suite have been narrated by some of the most famous voices in the world of entertainment. Among the celebrities who recorded Peter and the Wolf are George Raft, Boris Karloff, Ricardo Montalban, Hermione Gingold, Cyril Ritchard, Peter Ustinov, Sir Alec Guinness, even baseball star Tom Seaver. A lot of famous voices have narrated Peter and the Wolf, but only one of those voices belongs to a rock star. He recorded his version in 1978. And it sounded like this.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. Early one morning, Peter opened the gate and went out into the big green meadow.
That's the beginning of the story of Peter and the Wolf, narrated by David Bowie. He recorded it with the Philadelphia Orchestra under the direction of Eugene Ormandy. And David Bowie is the only rock star on a commercial release of that popular children's story. Just another credit the multi-talented English superstar added to his long list of accomplishments. His current hit dropped 7 notches this week in our survey. At number 28, it's Day In, Day Out. Here's David Bowie. David Bowie, first hit from the album Never Let Me Down. That's Day In, Day Out. And after being on its way in for the last 6 weeks, this week it's on its way out. It falls 7 notches to number 28 as the countdown rocks on.
American Top 40.